I don't know. I think what it means to be human is beyond words. It is what we know it to be. It's ineffable. What is it to me? It's a series of tasks to live in a world that's demanding of tasks, that gets us away from our, and I think it's the nature of your question, away from our innermost being. So very recently, it's funny that we're having this discussion now. In fact, yesterday I started reading a book on being in time, a summary on Heidegger, and talks about being in the Dasein, the most fundamental sense, and how that sets the base for us then to, make our own way in an existential sort of fashion, and how we get to determine where and what we do, but there's the facticity, and this is what I mean by the events that control our spiral and hurdles in life, that within the context sometimes things just kind of collapse and you can't really become what you otherwise would become. So being human is like living in these existences of, you have a deep-seated being, you have this idea of an authentic self on what you want to ultimately become, and then there are these arrows that are being shot at you from obligations and society, and you got to make a living, you got to be able to buy your mushroom burger, those sorts of things.
I mean, it's definitely a heavy question. The way I've always thought about it is there's no just pure meaning. For me, it's always been kind of try to improve every day, try to become the person that you've always seen yourself as. Yeah, just kind of just progressing, I think, more than anything. It's like one of those things where if you can do, with each day you feel like you're improving in something, by the end of it you have this big culmination of work that's hopefully meaningful to you and other people, so that's what I get out of it.
Oh man, that's shoot, I didn't know it was going to be something like that. What defines me? A good quality that I've learned in my life is perseverance. I went through a lot end of middle school. I lost my dad to cancer, and that put me in a really low position to the point where I wasn't able to just talk to people or just do anything most of the day. But I knew that just being there in that position wasn't going to get me anywhere in life, so I had to break through. I mean, I was at the very bottom, so the only way you can get from the bottom is going to the top. So yeah, my quality is perseverance. I'm here now, first generation student, trying to make my family proud, trying to make him proud.
What is your biggest fear?
War.
What's so bad about war?
Turmoil? I don't know. I just, for me and my child, it's the biggest fear. Maybe climate change would be close second, because of his future. So
Awareness, but awareness in the sense of understanding and pausing to actually critically think before speaking. Like, just not a social media, inherent reaction where you're just speaking out to a void. You're speaking to other people, you're thinking, and you're expressing thoughts to other people. And the thoughtlessness from your own issue gets like a tumor sent out into the universe, and then it makes other people become neoplastic, and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. And I think that people need to stop and pause and say, okay, what do I believe? How does this fit into my life? Why do I need to react? And when I do react, if I do, should it not be more well thought out so that I'm not just spreading the angst and the anger? And we know psychological health is on a severe decline, and it's proportional to, social media. I use YouTube as well. I love YouTube, but I largely use it for educational videos like I presume you're making. I think there's a lot of value in the technology if it's used in the way that expands people's awareness and not used for low energy pursuits.
Being completely satisfied, epic love, and having a happy, healthy future with my family. Being physically and mentally healthy, being content with where I'm at in my career and financial situation, hopefully growing my career into something that I'm really passionate about, helping people.
I guess my favorite chapter is now. I'm a senior right now. Hopefully I'll be graduating in May. I think as I got older in this stage of my last year of college, I learned a lot about myself, a lot about my family, a lot about my growth and how I want to be understood and how people's opinions doesn't really matter. And I just want to live my best life. So, yeah.
Most of the time we have not known what we were doing, what were the implications of our choices, and we made them, and there were leaps of faith. I had a hard decision when I was a kid. I was in high school on the wrestling team. Another guy beat me consistently, and so I decided I would drop out of the wrestling team. And I thought it over, and I got some good advice, and I decided I would stay on the team even though I wasn't going to be one of the starters. That's the kind of difficulty a teenager has. Everybody should be so lucky that their hardest decision was like that. Being a conscientious objector was a hard decision because my family wasn't in favor of it. I did that when I was about 20. You got any hard ones?
Well, that was a decision we made together. It was easy to be in love with him. He's a principled man. And we did end up going to the Peace Corps together so that he was able to give service to his country, but not in the way that was being asked of him initially.
Yeah, that was an easy decision. So we went to school in Switzerland, did our junior year abroad in a little college in Switzerland. And we were friends, and one night we walked up the mountain, and the lights of the little chalets in the village were twinkling. And I said, maybe we should think about getting married. And she said, no, I want to go to the Peace Corps. I said, immediately, we could go together. And we did. So I talked her into it.
We have been very lucky, very fortunate.
Oh, raindrops on roses, whiskers on kittens.
Just stop that.
Sitting in the sunshine holding hands with my love. I like ancient Roman imperial coins, too.
Little things.
I like books. I like archival research. That's what I do. History of art, and more specifically, history of art in Renaissance Milan.
Oh, goodness. I established independence, and in that, that's a hard question. It's a good question. I'll think about this all day today. Yeah, I'll stick to that. Establishing a sense of independence, so moving past the environment I was in of nurturing, going on by myself. So learning about how you're perceived as a woman versus a girl, demanding respect in certain rooms, and having to address my responsibility in that. To be clear, probably going off to college and learning how to engage in conversations and the ability to provide that perspective, maybe. Don't think I'm making much sense in this. I'll give an example. I work in a field where it's predominantly white male education in Virginia. In those spaces, I've been asked to sit in certain areas of a room, or eye contact has been specifically driven to one individual rather than myself. And in those spaces, technically I'm the person to be directing those conversations, and it's assumed that it's the male in the room. And so in those situations, I've had to reestablish direction of conversation, and I think in learning to do that, as I've moved from girl to woman, has, I think, allowed me to separate and deem that a transitional experience, maybe.
The most definitive moment of sort of like manning up in my life was a moment of seeing myself and seeing that I wasn't who I thought I was, and humbling myself in like acknowledgement of who I really was, which wasn't pretty, and asking for forgiveness of a number of people who I'd wronged. My parents being some of them, my siblings who I'd already mentioned some of that being some of them, and my creator being another one of them. Selfish. I was the gravitational center of my little solar system. Yeah, it was about me.
My legacy will be that I have always been myself and nothing less than that. I never pretend to be something I'm not. I will always just be who I am till I die.
So how did you make it to this point?
Who the hell knows? A lot of it was luck. You know, I think back, and I have thought back at this stage of the game, and I said, with some of my escapades, I'm glad to be alive, but here I be. Roll with it. I've had a lot of fun along the way. As I said, a few of them was like, you know, I was really lucky to be here. I just take, eat well, exercise. Little vice doesn't hurt. How did I get here? I'm here. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that one, but here I be.
I mean, the first thing that came to mind was my mom, maybe. I don't know, just not in like any particular type of way, but I just think, she's maybe like first on my mind, like wanting to make her happy, like making sure that she's okay, worrying about her, so I can't just go off and do whatever. I have to like check in with her and make sure that she approves of what I'm doing and stuff. So, yeah.
My advice to the world is keep democracy alive. I came to this country 30 years ago. Before I lived in the former USSR. There were some pluses in our life, like good education, culture, art, but I know what is to live not in democratical society. I know what is to live in under authoritarian power. I don't want anybody experience that. It is too much to talk about it, but it is awful. You are not a person in that society. You are just something. You have no rights. You have no right to have your opinion. Well, I always had my opinion, but I would express and share it only with very, very close friends and my family. And when I came to America, and I can talk easily, free about many political ideas, life, social, anything. It is a great thing. And then here you have right. You have, in this country, you have laws for now. I hope it will be so. So people who have no experience of living in autocratical society, they cannot really appreciate what democracy gives to the manhood and to every person.
My advice to the world, like, love each other. I think we can't change all the world if we do not change ourselves. I think we very, very tolerate each other, love each other. Life is very, very short, and if we will be kind to each other, probably the world would be better than now. And also, I think because, like, the people who teach us, like the churches and everything, I think they do not teach us how to be better, but they teach us to obey to the God, but nobody knows who he is. That's it.
What motivates me to keep going? I would say my past self. I think my past self would look at me now and be like, oh my God, I want to be her. But then in reality, I am her. Like, I think of the times where I had to go through all my life, and I don't think my past self would ever envision that she was here doing what she was doing. So now that I am here doing what I didn't think I could do, that's what keeps me going.
Probably like, what will I make of myself? Because, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I don't have a direction, which is, it's a scary thought. Like, what, obviously everyone's like, oh, what are you gonna do? But I feel like it's more than that. Like, not only just your job, but like, what are you gonna do in life? The lessons you'll learn, the lessons you'll teach, stuff like that. And then how you're gonna develop even like side things you do, your main job, you know, relationships. Like, I didn't even know if I was gonna get married till like, 6 months ago. Like, I wasn't even sure if I was that was part of my life yet. But now I know that, and I'm like putting the pieces together, but I'm not there. So that's like a scary question. Like, where will I be? Like, what will I do? You know?
3 days ago, I'd say, actually. Let's see. I was talking to myself. I was praying, and I was thinking, man, I really messed up a few times, and I reflected on it so much. I was like, dang, I'm really weak. And so I just thought to myself, I'm the one at fault, and I need to be better than this. And I need to be with other people. Other people make me better. They want me to make myself better. By helping other people, I basically just help myself be a better person. I need to do that more, and I haven't been doing that enough. And so I kind of cried because I was like, I'm failing the people that are most important for me. I named each one, my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, my God, my priest, everyone that I know. So when I realized I failed, I kind of teared up. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
The most important thing I've learned about myself, let's see, what did I learn about myself? The most important thing I've learned about myself is that I have no tolerance for bullshit. I do the best I can for other people and enjoy my friends, and at this stage, well, I guess always, I save myself for the people I care about and the people I have fun with, and I try and avoid the life suckers.
It's a good question. Hopefully it's through example. So some of the things that my wife and I do, we've done like food kitchens and stuff. We don't do it as often as we should, but we do that. But I think it's probably through like small day-to-day things, like not these big grand gestures, but small things they do, like opening doors for people, tip jars, helping people out when I see them, so stuff like that.
My greatest struggle, I guess acceptance. I don't want to say socially awkward, but because I'm very outgoing, I don't mind talking to people, but it's hard for me to make friends, if that makes sense. I love expressing myself, but I'm always afraid of what people think of me. I want to be accepted by everyone. I want to be loved by everyone. I want everyone to like me for some reason. A very hypocritical thing of me to say. Like, I don't like it when people don't like me, but yet then I can go and talk about someone behind their back and say, well, you know, I don't like that person. But it's very hypocritical. But it's what I struggle with is being accepted. I'm always wanting to be accepted by everyone. And if someone has a problem with me, I'm usually like, well, why does that person have a problem with me? And I spend a lot of time figuring out, and it's worthless to do that. I need to move on, and what people think is what people think. I shouldn't worry about that. But that right there is a big, big struggle of mine.
Forgiveness. Yeah. Oh gosh, this is kind of going to get a little deep, but my father-in-law was murdered. And so the person that murdered him was caught, and just trying to release all of that anger and frustration, and it was all bent up. It was all pent up for so many years. And in a situation like ours, it went on for years because there were 3 trials. And so each time you think you're getting over it, it all comes back, and it all comes back, and it all comes back. For me personally, it just really came down to forgiveness and forgiving the person, not necessarily condoning what they did, but accepting it that this is what they chose to do. It has no reflection on whether or not I approve it, disapprove it, or forgive him. I need to forgive him for me so that I can move on, and because I'm a Christian and that's what Jesus Christ calls me to do, because I am forgiven, then I need to forgive others. And so that was a huge, huge lesson for me. That was a lot. I said it would get deep, yeah. I feel released, I feel released from it. I don't feel any animosity. It's sad, of course it's a sad situation, but I think I've also flipped a little bit because I also feel very sorry for the person who's in prison, and he's having to live out his life in prison, and not that his punishment isn't just, but I really feel sorry for his family. And his family, I hope that they can forgive him so that they're not constantly burdened with the anger and the resentment that I carried for all those years.
I do. I've kind of gone back and forth with that a little bit, I know that I should always love myself, kind of always put myself first. I've always kind of known that, if you're not loving yourself, how are you supposed to put love out back into the world? At least that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm having a little bit more difficulty, currently, I guess, in the past couple months or so. Just a lot going on in the world, a lot of external stressors. But every day I'm practicing meditation and trying to love myself as best as I can. It's just a little overwhelming right now, I guess, not only with everything going on in the world, but things going on in my personal life that just sometimes, for some reason, give me some self-doubt. It's a personal struggle that I'm doing my best to overcome, I guess. Kind of starting every day new and reminding myself every morning that, it's a great prize to be able to, wake up in this human experience and really just to enjoy every moment of it the best you can and not let myself get too sidetracked with all the external stressors and hate in the world and everything else going on, and just, come back to the core and start inside and then radiate it out. I actually started going to a little class just helping me remind that a little bit, and one of the things that I've really taken away from it is peace and happiness comes from the inside instead of looking for it in external, buying things or doing things or pleasing other people. You really have to do it to yourself before you can worry about anybody else. So,
who am I becoming? Becoming me. I don't know. I'm becoming me. Does that make any sense? What do I look like? I'm becoming everything that I want to become. It's not going to happen right away, but I think the lessons and the failures and everything else that you go through teaches you a certain lesson. There's always a test all the time. It's easier to give up and not do anything. It's the easy route. But to keep going and work on yourself every day and become who you are and knowing who you are and what you can do and striving to do that, that's who I'm becoming. So there's probably a lot in store for me, but I just have to tap in there. And so that's who I want to become, everything that's in store for me.
That's a good one. The moment in my life that I will never forget will be the time when I graduated. I got accepted into college and all of that, and I feel like that was a blessing considering my past in my life. I didn't really grow up, with a good life. So for me to have that opportunity, I felt like that was a blessing. Actually, I was in foster care growing up most of my life. Yeah, I didn't get adopted till I was about 11 years old. But growing up, it taught me a lot of things, especially being by myself and not having my own immediate family. Showed me how to be independent, showed me how to, conquer a lot of things in life and be able to stand on my own. Also, growing up, it was fair. I didn't have the best life growing up as a kid. I mean, my mom struggled a lot, especially with her alcohol problems and stuff. But you know what? She gave me up, and I felt like that was a blessing because, it could have been a lot worse. So I'm just grateful for that. It really taught me a lot in life, whatever position you are in life, whether you're down or up, you just don't give up.
Oh my goodness, a lot. Hadn't always been a Christian. Had a little bit of a rocky life. Run with some motorcycle gangs, and so I've made some big changes. I think I'm a great dad, very blessed with an amazing family. So, like I say, just happy with who I am and where I'm at. Haven't always been that way. I was a free spirit, we'll say. Like a lot of people, I was an alcoholic at one time. Dabbled in a little bit of drugs here and there, everywhere, and then I got saved, gave my life to the Lord, and all of it went away. Everything changed. So I have to recommend this life, for me, a lot more than the other one. There was always a hole there. There was always something, and I was trying to fill it with the world. And it's never full. You're never going to find it.
My most cherished memory is dying at 9. I was hit by a car when I was 9. For a period, I was unconscious on the ground before returning to this planet and going home. I was instructed when I left to return home. I did not know where home was, but the Creator told me, Mom. And I woke up and ran to Mom. That's my most cherished memory. Yeah, that's my thing. I don't think that led me to a God. I do think it's what has led to me being more spiritually in tune and aware than others. Having that experience showed me that there was more to this plane, and that had led me on kind of a search or a quest, if you want to call it that. I don't think it's a quest. I really think it's an assignment that you receive, and everyone's is different, but I became aware of my assignment much after that death.
I think my greatest regret is probably just not
Like, my family fell apart and everything, and like afterwards I was kind of left on the back burner, and I think my greatest regret was sort of like giving into that grief and like starting a destructive lifestyle rather than showing up for myself and making a life for myself. I mean, my life right now isn't terrible, but like I could have gone to school and, you know, I would have been much better off financially now and a little more stable. I think that's probably my biggest regret, is just wasting time over nothing. Yeah, not investing in myself earlier.
Oh, okay. I have one. Well, sometimes I can be a bit stubborn when it comes to speaking or expressing how I feel. I had to sort of get past any sort of anger I may have had with a particular friend of mine. So instead of sort of suppressing how I felt, I needed to sort of do what other people were recommending, which was to like actually sort of talk it out so that I didn't have as much hostility or bitterness towards them. After several months of ignoring them and then finally doing what they wanted me to do, I realized that was the right choice. So I was initially wrong then. Like having someone who cares about you very much and realizing that they want the best for you, but sometimes it can be okay, so if someone wants the best for you, sometimes, or in my experience, my friend was sort of pushing me to do things that I necessarily didn't want to do, and in the end I had to sort of break away and decide that this is not what I want to do, and so I'm not going to base my like importance or value based on like what other people want me to do and sort of how successful I am at accomplishing those particular things. So that was my dad, that person.
Ooh. I've learned that nature is everything. You know, traveling and living in our car and everything like that while content creating and doing what we love to do. If you look out in nature, that's like the universal answer to anything you got problems going on with. And it's the universal healing if we choose that and if we step into that.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so grounding and getting out in nature has been a lifesaver for us. Nature teaches us every day.
You know, if you look out in nature, you know, everything is abundant, right? Nothing out in nature is stressing and things like that. If you go out in nature, right, you feel like you got to get some bills paid and you don't know how and you're stressing out, you're not going to make it happen by like trying to grind your way into it. But if you go out in nature and just relax, everything will come to you.
Yeah.
So
surrender. Nature will teach you to surrender.
Absolutely.
We will be married 65 years in 9 days. We have 4 children that are doing well. They're healthy and doing well and happy. So that's another reason I like myself, because I'm happy most all the time. A couple should realize they're buddies before they get married. A Baptist minister told a bunch of us guys one time, do you want to have breakfast with this girl every day the rest of your life? Ask yourself that question, and also take a good look at her mama. And then the other thing is praying together and being faithful.
Greatest trial of personal growth. I think after college, when I was thinking about where I wanted to be with my life, because I didn't really have anything set after going to college, and I know I didn't want to stay living with my parents forever, and I always knew as a kid I didn't want to do what many people in my family were doing. So trying to figure that out, eventually going away to grad school to finally get the answer, and then in grad school struggling to get the opportunities that I have now. It's never been an easy thing, both because of things internally where I don't really know, or I have things holding me back or that I think are holding me back, and then external factors such as institutions or other people that may not necessarily think I'm either good enough or may not necessarily think I belong or whatever else. Certainly those years after I graduated from college, I think I had to do quite a bit of digging and trying to get myself out of a hole that I thought I was in. And looking back, those were some years I wouldn't relive, so to speak, but they're definitely years in which I learned a lot of things about myself and gained a lot of knowledge that I use now and that I've used in the past to great effect. So.
Well, the world is full of sociopaths, and I feel like there aren't enough people with empathy. I've been homeless with my cat, like scrambling by, selling everything I own just to stay alive, while everybody else racks up the riches and laughs at my misery. And I'm like,
why aren't there enough people out there caring about each other? So I don't know. It's been a journey. That's what I can say. I've been going through narcissistic abuse since basically childhood, and I'm just ready to get life going in forward motion instead of backwards at this point.
I think so. I want to believe so, but I think probably not. I think a lot of people out here, I think most people, you're really lucky if you get to die with all your loved ones to your side, fulfilled with everything that, you wanted to achieve. I think most people probably don't have half the things checked off their list when they want to die. So realistically, I think probably no, but the goal is trying to get as many of those things crossed off. So I think ultimately no, but I'm okay with that. Well, I mean, like if you're living your life and you're like, I want to live and I want to achieve all these great things, most people aren't going to achieve that. There's a lot of people who, you can swing for the fences, you're only going to get so far, and that's fine. I think being okay with where you land and wherever kind of life takes you is you can't really lose if that's kind of your perspective on things. You want to live in a massive house and have all these things, but might just live in a regular mid-sized house and have everything you need right there. So I think falling short of your goals is not always a bad thing if you can look around and be okay with where you're at and realize that most people are kind of in the same situation, and it's all about your perspective.
So many ways. I think I'm simultaneously afraid of commitment and also change, and that can really impact me in very negative ways because I don't want to take a chance and do something different, but I also don't want to close doors by staying in the same space. So it's always this internal conflict. Constantly. Yeah, currently I'm pursuing a career that I'm not exactly sure that I want to pursue, but I'm afraid of changing tacks and trying something different because I'm afraid that if I do that, then I won't be able to come back to this if this is what I decide I want to do. So, yeah.
Choose myself.
Yep.
Choose myself, and by choose myself, I mean make an investment in myself. I went through the foster care system. My mom was on drugs, whole family is on drugs and everything to this day. And I made an investment in myself by saying, you know what, I'm gonna do my life purpose and my calling no matter what. And now I have over 35,000 followers on TikTok. And she has over 46,000 on TikTok. We're really starting to pop off and everything, but if we didn't make that investment in ourselves, we live off the universe. We're employed by the universe, so we don't stress about where money's gonna come from or how the bills are gonna get paid. We live out of our car for now, and we just take it day by day and know that, one day soon everything is gonna change for the better. So, but if you don't take that investment, you'll never know where you can go and where your life purpose will lead you. So.
Same, the healing journey. That's been the most important thing for me, which is literally everything that he said. It's just, for me, it was choosing myself and choosing that, every single day to put in the work, to be better, to evolve. So that's it.
Absolutely. This is an inward journey. I say it's an inward job. If you lose yourself outside of, yourself, you're going to be lost forever. But if you go within yourself, that's where all the answers are. That's where the magic happens, right? And if you follow that inner path, it's going to lead you somewhere beyond what you could ever even comprehend, right? And our soul is above logic, right? We're 3 in 1. So we got our mind, we got our heart, and we got our soul. Right? Our mind is very logical, right? That can only get you so far. Our heart, very emotional. That can only get you so far. But if you go on the inward journey, which is within your soul, that'll lead you above all of that, because that's above logic and it's above emotions. And that's where the real magic of life starts. And that's how we met. I was actually on a live video on TikTok. I consider her to be my wife and everything like that, because we don't believe in the legal, paper thing and everything. So she hopped on my live, and, ever since, she drove all the way down there, and she said, she cried to me that night after I got off the live video on TikTok as I was sleeping on the streets, and she said, you'll never have to go back to the streets. I'm gonna make something work, figure it out. And but if I never would have been following my passion and the magic of life, I never would have met her. So.
Yeah, same.
The day God opened my heart and eyes up to him, when I went through a depressed state, one of the best days of my life, because I was I was doing drugs, heavy, drinking, to the point where I almost died. And I got locked up, and I did nothing but cry and sob for a whole week. And I'm very spiritual. I never really took the time out to read. And God's words is truth, And I meditated in the Bible day in and night, and God came to me. And ever since then, I've been doing great. I'm trying to get emotional now. I start best moment of my life.
My current stage of life, in a word, growth. So in one word, growth. Learning from trials, learning from, learning from past experiences, constantly understanding and reanalyzing self to achieve a higher vibration, like my man was saying. You know what I'm saying? Because all life is vibration, and all life is, a matter of enlightening or awakening self. So my thing has been understanding what that awakening really means. Meditation has been my primary key, but it's just a matter of, really asking self tough questions about self. Really almost, psyching self, if you will. You know what I'm saying? It's like getting with that internal, because like my man was saying, we're built of a duality, our lower self and our higher self. That higher self is that divine energy that the Creator gave us. And when you meditate, you find that you get a chance to hear that voice a lot clearer. And that's been my main route to, growth.
What's the most beautiful thing about life? Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to say growth. And I think growth in a lot of ways, like nature growth, right? When you get to see trees grow and everything like that, it's really beautiful. But also when you see people grow and become free from pain, that's also really beautiful. So growth. Yeah.
The best advice I ever received was before my boyfriend passed away 2 years ago. The best advice he gave me was to do things in life unapologetically, because you only get one life. I mean, you make mistakes. Yeah, that's true. But just do everything in your life unapologetically, because, we're our own person. We have our own past and our own destiny.
The U.S. Army. That's to sum that up, I was actually 6 years active duty. I went in 2007 and got out. It was almost 2013. It was the end of 2012. And of course, the reasons that I went in were a few different reasons, 9/11 being one. Ironically, I just came from the 9/11 memorial to here today, which is kind of ironic, but that wasn't the only reason I joined. Like most people who serve, there's several reasons why they serve: financial, desperation, so on and so forth. But ultimately, I do think that most people who do serve have positive intentions as to why they serve. But after you serve, and especially if you go to combat, as I did, I served in Afghanistan, you kind of get a clearer picture of how things really are compared to how you thought they were before you were actually there. And it completely changed my mindset, completely realizing that that war was mostly about money. Mostly.
At the moment, yeah, I am. Good things are happening, and I've been through a lot. I worked on myself a lot. A lot of things have changed. I've been through a lot of bad stuff, and finally good stuff are happening. So I'm getting to the point where I want to be. So yeah, I had a mother that loved me a lot and expected and wanted a lot of me from me, and one day I didn't want to do it. I was young, 13 and stuff like that. And then she got worried and asked for a member of the family to try to put me on track. That didn't work out. That made it worse. And then my solution was drugs and stuff like that. And that was pretty bad. And then I quit doing it. And then I came here to America. It's been 8 months. I started working. I never really was the working type. I only stayed home and did nothing. And saved up a little bit of money. I learned with experience a lot, because when I got here, I trusted people and did some prideful stuff too, and I ended up being homeless for 2 months. And I'm still at the moment, but I'm getting closer to what I have to do. I got my documents back. I have, someone that's helping me out to get a job and stuff like that. And yeah, so I'm doing good. And I'm at where I'm supposed to be. So yeah, I don't have nothing back home really. So it's like, it's not a bad thing.
I have very few regrets, really. Sort of drove my boyfriend when I was 16 practically into suicide, but he is still alive. But I do regret hurting him so much. He didn't commit suicide, but he threatened.
Ooh, what is stopping me from being my authentic self? Fear. Definitely fear, and specifically fear of how I'll judge myself. It's not even fear of others' judgment, but fear of what if I don't do it well enough? What if I go for something I really want to go for and then I fail at it? Or fear of how I'm going to treat myself out of it is probably what holds me back most from being my authentic self. Yeah.
Oh, that's the easiest when I had my daughter. 100%. You went from just caring about yourself in a way to all of a sudden loving something that you didn't know you could. Oh, I didn't think that would make me sad. I guess I never really thought about it until you said it. But yeah, 100%. I had my daughter. It was like it was like a love something that I didn't know I was missing until I held her for the first time. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Oh man. I think we all hypocrites. A specific way. I mean, there was a time where, you know, I judged other people and I didn't like being judged, you know, for whatever race or sexual orientation or whatever. That's something I've been working on, and I'm not sure if I'm still that way. I know I'm less that way than I was before.
I died in the hospital and I came back to life. Right before that, before I actually got cut out of my tent, because my mom was on drugs when she had me, I beat my seizures, but they came back because my body was under too much stress and not being able to eat. And at that time, I hadn't been eating in probably 2 weeks at least. I looked like I was basically from the Holocaust. My face was really sucked in and everything like that, and my ribs, you know, were showing in like really bad. One of the other homeless people used their government phone to actually call 911. And they came and cut me out of my tent and rushed me to 2 hospitals before rushing me to the 3rd, which was Orlando Hospital. And I died and came back to life because my seizures threw my heart out of rhythm. And so that was probably the lowest point because I felt less than human at that point. And that's where, you know, I started a few years ago, I started speaking. And I told myself ever since, I'm just going to follow what I love to do and what my calling is, which is transformational speaking. And now we're on the verge of, you know, reaching thousands of people every day through our live videos that we do on TikTok and through our posts and everything. And so now we're here. So
yeah. And as far as my lowest goes, we'll leave it at that. I think my lowest has been just those moments where I haven't had myself. I'll leave it at that. Like, haven't had enough courage to stand up for myself, to be who I want to be, to say what I want to say. So it's not a specific time in my life, but it's specific moments in my life that I've like not been there for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So. That's that, you know, having a foundation, which is the relationship with yourself. If you don't have a foundation, you have nothing.
Yeah.
That's what we believe in.
That's a really deep question. I think love is just commitment. Like, you have to be committed to each other. There's gonna be good times, there's gonna be bad, but you have to be willing to work it out with each other and to listen to what the other one has to say and be willing to adapt your own viewpoints to fit with your partners so that you can create one cohesive unit rather than 2.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, and probably a little bit of just giving up a little bit of who you are as yourself and maybe some of your goals to make it more of a cohesive goal for your family.
Yeah. Create something new out of 2. I had to give up my career to follow him. He was transferred to Hong Kong, so I quit my job and followed him, and that was probably the best decision ever. I was an accountant, so it was really hard to let go and not be type A and worry about paychecks and things like that, and just give that up and go. And then we came back and we had kids, and I decided to stay home with them. So I gave up my career as a tax accountant.
Sometimes passing up job opportunities for the sake of your family.
Yeah, it might not be a good spot to raise a family, or you might not want to have children there. Or your spouse might not want to move there.
A good life is one that at the end of it, you have as few regrets as possible. Now, this is, entirely independent of actions, whether you are truly doing good in the world or truly doing bad. That's entirely in the eye of history as it comes out to be. And so you don't entirely have the perfect control over that. So what the most important thing to do is to try and live with as few regrets as possible while still trying to accomplish as much as possible, both for yourself and for the world around you. Even just small things, if you do it in a day, if that at the end of the day you go, man, I'm really glad I did that. That in itself is living a good life. You don't need to change the world dramatically. You don't need to topple mountains. You don't need to move entire buildings to be able to have a good life. It's a good life is about, living honestly with both yourself and with the world around you. And truly, if you think you're a good person and trying to do good things, then, you pretty much are. Even if things don't necessarily always work out. There's a difference between truly, being lucky in stumbling into good solutions. And, there's some great people who've done amazing things for the world who've stumbled into the solution randomly. And so just because you're trying for something, if you don't happen to get a solution, that doesn't mean you're bad. That doesn't mean you're living a bad life. It doesn't mean you're not fulfilling your life. It just means, you haven't stumbled into the right solution. And so, maybe you're going about it wrong.
My parents, yeah, they're not very nice people, so. Well, my mom is kind of just a really vicious person. She's okay on the phone, but in person she's kind of a monster. And my father, he's from Egypt. He's something of a tiger parent. He wanted me to get all A's my whole life. I didn't grow up making that many friends. I have a really poor social set. I'm not really good at talking to people, so. And he's just mean in general.
This is gonna sound really screwed up, but I would say something that I've witnessed that I feel like everybody should witness is watching your parents cry. It made me remember that everybody is allowed to have emotions and everybody processes them differently. Watching your parents cry is watching them feel defeated, and it's okay to feel defeated every now and then.
Go ahead, angry Jersey girl, please.
I'm gonna say, left to their own, they're inherently neutral. I think if you don't have the modeled behavior of good or evil, you don't have anything except what you decipher. And how do you know if it's good or bad or right or wrong? It's just survival. So I think in that instance, it's neutral. You don't have that influence or that stimulus of, don't touch that, it's hot, don't do that, it's mean, or this is how we show love. So you kind of wing it, maybe. But I think neutral. If you're not taught good or evil, you don't have a predisposed idea of good or evil. Sorry, I'm taking up all your time.
Oh boy, it's going to be close to the same, honestly, because married, sharing lifestyles and perspectives. Yeah, I mean, from a scientist's point of view, we're animals and we construct our own versions of good and evil. Depending on where you are in history, you could find things that we now consider abhorrent to be totally socially acceptable. But I think there is also a chemical drive associated with our species that provides us general moral, but I'm not using the right word, guidance. It's not necessarily moral in the sense that we use by modern language. It's not a divinity or a belief telling us this. It's just, I shouldn't do this. Like, there is nothing other than society stopping me from right now running over and kicking a puppy. But I doubt there's anybody, regardless of race, creed, or religious philosophy, that would look at me and go, cool. No, that's an awful thing to do. Where did that belief and feeling come from? Is it physiological? Is there a chemical response for fight or flight that we've learned from the eons? Or is it a inherent moral philosophy from a different perspective? You can argue that divinities are nothing more than three-dimensional representations of a four-dimensional creature. But we're never going to figure that out because we're three-dimensional, and we'll never know that. You know, is Jesus and Yahweh and Ra all the same person, just kind of poking into our dimension at the same time? I don't know. I'm too dumb to figure that out, but it's fun to think about late at night.